Hi friends, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra here at the 338 Club at C2 with lawyer extraordinaire Tim Forshee. And I want to talk to my friend, the defense attorney today, as well as my friend, the prosecuting attorney today, about the wisdom of the Nevada smoke shop owner in the days after his encounter doing a Reddit AMA.
To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
So I sent you this stuff.
You did, yeah. Hard to believe until you see it, yeah.
So when I heard that he posted, so first of all, he posted this encounter to his company Instagram. As a defense attorney, if you have somebody who had a deadly force encounter where he used or she used deadly force, what would you say is was it wise to post the incident's surveillance footage in a public place?
Incredibly wise. I couldn't have no, of course I'm being silly, no. I always tell people the Fifth Amendment is, I'm not gonna say it's the most important of the Bill of Rights, but I always tell people I think it's the most overlooked. And by that I mean that everybody has the right to remain silent, but it seems like very few people have the ability to remain silent.
Yes,
right?
to quote the prophet Ron White.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, exactly. So largely, the prophet Ron White, largely I would say, shut up, right? So posting something publicly like that, I mean, first of all, you're in the public forum, you post stuff all the time. You could have something that's, says oxygen is required for life, and 20% of people are going to disagree with you about that, right? So that's going to start up conversations, that's going to start up arguments and stuff, and people blurt out things when they're not thinking well. Even on social media, they do it all the time. That was just one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard. I mean, if I was his attorney, I would be riding down to the jail right now and putting him in a harness. I mean, I've had a couple of clients, one in particular that was incarcerated for quite some time before his trial, couldn't afford a lawyer and bond, and he had to make the hard choice, and he stayed in jail. And he called me and said, hey, local news team is on its way down here to do an interview with me. And I said, no, that you're not. And I literally ran down to the jail and got there and told the people they would need to leave, and my client had changed his mind. And of course, my client has the right to speak to them.
Yeah.
He has the right to listen to my advice or not to listen to my advice. I always tell people I have no idea why you're paying so much money for my advice if you're not going to follow my advice.
Right.
If you don't like my advice, fire me. But if you like me enough to keep me on as your lawyer, then maybe you should follow my advice.
Yeah.
And thankfully that guy, we did prevent that from happening, but he thought it was the best idea in the world to tell his story in his way. No, it is almost invariably a disaster. I mean, you just simply don't do that.
So then he doubled down from posting the video to this company Instagram and went on Reddit and did an AMA. Now, if you're not familiar with Reddit, Reddit has a feature or a thing that called AMA, Ask Me Anything.
Or against medical advice.
Yeah, it could be against, but
right.
Here it's Ask Me Anything. I've actually done a Reddit AMA when we broke, I think, 2 million subscribers on the big channel. A couple people asked me for a Reddit AMA, so I did one. Cool, ask me anything about being a YouTuber. Cool, go ahead. Here, look, this is what I did. Here's the defensive encounter I just got in. Ask me anything. And boy, people did. And he started making statements. What do we think of doing a public? Now, here's the problem. The lawyers of Reddit showed up. Now, I'm not talking about internet lawyers. I'm talking about people with JDs and law offices who happen to be Redditors. Showed up and went, what the hell are you doing? And told him to delete it. He did, except for the internet's forever.
It's always on there, yeah, exactly.
And so what would you say as a criminal defense attorney to someone posting a Reddit AMA about their gunfight before it's been litigated?
Well, like you said, you can't take it back. And of course, the state's going to use anything they can use. And clearly that's discoverable and usable. There's nothing inadmissible about that evidence. You've just put that out there in the public forum. So clearly you have no privacy expectation. So how are you going to argue a Fourth Amendment violation if you go to court? That's all going to come in, right?
That is discoverable.
Absolutely.
And admissible.
It's not only discoverable, it's discovered.
Yeah.
They don't have to look.
They don't even have to, but I'm saying, so the prosecuting attorney is going to look at that and just start salivating.
They're going to giggle, yeah.
Especially when there's statements on there like, oh, I don't care about those guys. If they sue me, I'll bury them in court. My lawyer said this was okay. Which,
boy,
first of all,
if that's true, that lawyer should be probably
disbarred.
Well, it should be working at an Ace Hardware store. That's for sure. Yeah.
I don't understand how you get to the place where you go, hey, I'm going to tell the world about this the day after it happens and before the dust is even settled.
Well, I'm an old FUD, so let's just acknowledge that I know that. I mean, I'm a Luddite and I'm an old guy, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination, my daughters are going to laugh if they ever see this, savvy with regard to social media. That said, I feel like in the 15 to 40-year-old age range right now, there's this fixation with, I don't know if you want to call it instant fame or look at me, what it is, but people just have to put it on social media.
Yeah, social credit, right?
And it is a lawyer's best friend, social media. I mean, I cannot tell you the things that come up in cases where you'd never, ever, ever find something out in any possible legal way, and the person just hands it to you on social media. I can't work because of my back injury, and then 3 days later they're posting video of them water skiing.
Yeah.
You don't even have to work very hard to prove cases these days because people are so stupid with what they post on social media.
I can't tell you the number of times, whether on YouTube or on our Facebook page or the company Instagram, that I have replied to someone's comment and said, you know this is discoverable if ever you're in a gunfight, right?
They're nice.
You know this is discoverable. Well, I think we should kill criminals on sight. You know that's going to show up, right? Here's an uncoerced utterance of your idea of what we should be doing.
And that person gets involved in a shooting that they try to claim is justifiable a year later, and that resurfaces, and it's the vigilante club all over again.
And so listen, I'm the same guy that, okay, so after Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted, right? And you heard him on the last video. Anybody who watched that trial, it was clearly justified conduct. Thomas Binger should be disbarred for his prosecutorial misconduct for even bringing charges in that case, quite frankly. And I'd say even more, but I think Judge Schrader said much of it.
He did great.
But then he started going on the speaking circuit. And I said, somebody get that kid, 19 years old at the time, I think 18, and stuff him in a box for 6 months. For gracious sakes, tell him to shut up, get out of the country, go live in Cancun for 6 months.
That might be one because of the notoriety of that case. I mean, here locally, Arizona State University basically declined him to be able to go to school. Why? Because he was acquitted of a crime? I mean, that's a whole nother story.
A whole nother
but
thing.
That might have been one of those, I mean, he's 19, 20 years old. I might have said, hey, you know what? Let's legally change your last name and dye your hair black and, come back up for air in 6 months. Exactly right. And maybe he can get his life back. But
and again, so as a guy who does use of force expert witness work, right? Your criminal defense attorney, don't do this.
Please don't do this.
Don't do this, okay? Now, we've had plenty of folks who have come to us after their case is adjudicated. We've had a couple of them on the channel that the videos are nowhere else in the universe, and they come and here, John, this is what happened.
Right.
Okay, tell me what the district attorney said. District attorney said justified conduct. Great. Okay, we have that in writing somewhere from the DA?
Right.
Yes, cool. Now let's talk about it.
And don't forget, though, even because people don't get this, there's a 7-year statute of limitations on any crime other than murder. And with murder, there's no statute of limitations. So I could decline prosecution on this case. We haven't really talked about it yet, but this would come up with the Manhattan Bodega case as well. No charges are going to be filed. That's been announced. That doesn't mean that the next DA doesn't change their mind. There's it's not some magical thing that's written in oak that you'll never ever face charges. We're simply saying we're declining prosecution at this time. They can always bring it up later. So if you've been tried and acquitted, now double jeopardy applies. Now you can talk about it, right? Whether you should or shouldn't is another matter. But at least they can't decide to bring the charges up again later. But if they just decline to prosecute, they can always change their mind next week.
And I think, I've seen a couple cases where people have an actual letter from the district attorney.
I think in some states that may be true. We don't have that in Arizona.
No.
Even if you have a letter, that's still not in any way binding, right? I mean,
it's not binding, but at least it's good evidence if somebody else chooses to pick it up.
And unless they're really playing a game on you, or unless there's a really huge political issue, you've got a really right-wing prosecutor now and you get a really left-wing prosecutor 2 years from now. But those things do happen.
So don't do it. Okay, hire an attorney. Shut up.
Shut up. That's the main thing we're saying is that the Fifth Amendment says shut up. Yeah.
And again, anything you do not say cannot be used against you. But anything you do say
that's right.
can and will. So be cautious of it. Tim, thanks so much.
My pleasure, buddy. Absolutely.